Hi, this is Shadow Coast, and welcome to our Tomb Kings Legendary Campaign. This first episode, I'll be focusing on reviewing Tomb Kings, the general campaign dynamics, as well as unit dynamics. If you're looking more for action and actual campaign progression, please skip to the next video, because a lot of this is just going over the basics, the research I've done, looking at both our heroes, lords, units, and buildings, and as well as the general campaign dynamics. In the next video, we'll actually get in the action and start the campaign. So off the bat here, I will be running a Vortex as well as a Mortal Empires Legendary campaigns, one for each. I've decided that I'm actually going to go with Khatep for the Vortex campaign here. He's extremely difficult. And then I'm going to probably play as Archon the Black for the Legendary campaign in Mortal Empires. Also very hard. Off the bat, we'll take a quick look at all 4 Legendary Lords you can choose from. Cetra is the kind of primary overall main king or legendary hero for Tomb Kings. Bonus is the public order growth, construction time for the capital settlement. He has enhanced aura size and casualty replenishment rate for Tomb Guard and Skeletal Chariot units. Overall, of the legendary lords, in playing a legendary campaign, I would normally recommend going with him. He has, melee talent, so you can use him to go up the center, tank, and do damage to units. However, he is easier to play. I want to take the path to most resistance, really test my skills and knowledge. In full transparency, I have actually not played any Tomb Kings yet, so if I make some embarrassing mistakes, I'm hoping it doesn't end the campaign early. We'll look at High Queen Khalida. She is pretty cool. Focuses on range. Their climate's jungle. She has plus diplomatic relationship with other Tomb Kings, plus ammunition for all her armies, which is nice. This is really cool. Enables poison attacks for Lord's armies. I think that would be extremely useful. Reduction to attrition and plus 3 untainted. Oh, sorry. Starting units. She starts with Sepulchral Stalkers and Necropolis Knights. Real quick, going back to Cetra, he starts with a Tomb Guard Halbergs and the War Sphinx. Third, there's Archon. He's unique. He actually has recruitment for vampire counts. Pretty interesting. He has plus diplomatic relations with vampire counts. I won't get into the lore here, but some interesting lore behind this, selling out several of the other Tomb Kings, and that's why he has such a negative modifier with their diplomatic relations. Plus 10 for magic reserves, and when you're playing this faction, you're not impacted by vampire corruption. He also provides plus melee and melee defense to heroes in the army. He starts with the Tomb Scorpion. This is one of the coolest looking units. I'll be honest, a lot of the constructs for Tomb Kings are awesome and very useful. He also has some Crypt Gals. We will be playing in this Vortex campaign as Khatep. He is a caster unit. Again, I normally prefer melee units for legendary lords. They can get in there, and the primary reason I prefer them over casters is that normally the skill trees you're leveling up, you're going to be doing more campaign movement stuff and then army upgrades to your units. So for casters, you have to consider that you're probably going to want to level up the casting line, which makes it a little more difficult. But with that being said, I still want to play as him. It's going to be a hard campaign. It's really going to test our micro skills and really make sure we understand how to utilize Tomb Kings. Bonuses that they have their climate, preferred climate are the mountains. They actually generate 2 canoptic jars per turn. I will talk about that shortly. Negative relations with Dark Elves. They actually start up to the, call it west of Nagaron, west and a little south of Nagaron. Kind of between, or aligned with Silas-Ador, Dark Elves, right above the Lizard Men. So negative diplomatic relations with the Dark Elves, plus campaign movement, plus casualty replenishment. That's actually really nice. And then The Lord effects +2 for Lich Priest hero capacity, and then +3 for Lich Priest recruitment ranks, which is pretty cool. He starts with Carrion, which is the flying war beast, similar but much weaker than Harpies. And then his construct is I don't know how to pronounce it, Hero Titan. Really cool unit, swinging scales, does great damage, great stats there. So let's get started. For those of you interested in watching the intro, I'm actually going to skip it here. Hopefully you're playing your own campaigns, you can watch it. I don't want to give away any spoilers if there are spoilers there. I'm more focused on gameplay and showing you the strategies that I'm going to be employing, and getting into that. So we're going to skip all this stuff. The one thing here, and I'm not going to read through it, how to play, there are a few interesting mechanics. They're in the Vortex campaign. Tomb Kings aren't actually concerned with the Vortex. They're concerned with finding obtaining 5 out of the 9 books of Nagash. Once you get all 5, and you control the Black Pyramid settlement, you actually fight the ultimate final battle. So when we look at our victory conditions down here, you'll see obtain 5 out of 9, and it's really any of the 5 out of 9 books of Nagash. Hold the following settlement, the Black Pyramid of Nagash, and then win that ultimate battle. The longer domination victory campaign is effectively destroy a bunch of factions and own a bunch of provinces. We're going to focus on this one. I think it's more fun, unique to the faction, so we're going to focus on that. Some interesting things to note here. Units don't actually cost upkeep. It's a limit cap. So we're gonna, looking at recruitment here, we can recruit an unlimited number of skeletal warriors and skeletal spearmen. They're really weak. You look at those stats for either of them, pitiful, worse than even the Skaven clan rats, or I think they're on par with almost the slaves. They're so bad. But, so, none of these have upkeep costs, what you can see here. The one interesting thing here is they are capped by the number you can recruit. And we can increase this number that we can recruit, or unit capacity, by different buildings, different techs, and other things. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. And then, from a tech perspective, they have Dynasties. Each time you recruit or research a dynasty, the subsequent dynasties are harder or take more time to complete. We'll take a look at that. And finally, they have the Mortuary cult, which I'll get into. So some good stuff there to know. We have, again, I'm skipping through this, sorry. We have a few missions off the bat. I think there are 3 of them. Yeah. Books of Nagash. Collect 5 out of the 9 books of Nagash. A dark distraction. Here looks like capture Marcellus the door. Settlement, we'll be working towards this early, and then research a dynasty technology. So I'm going to focus in on our skills. They are different per legendary lord, so keep that in mind. We're going to be focusing first on this bottom tree. My build for this is actually going to be a little bit different from what I'm seeing. So down here we start with classic route marcher. Definitely want the bonus campaign movement. We have iron discipline with plus public order going up to +3. I will not be getting this. Sand sweeper incoming from raiding. I don't do too much raiding. So although, and we'll see with the Tomb Kings, they don't generate a lot of gold. So something I might consider. One thing to know with that unit, when you recruit, not only does it not have upkeep costs, units are quote-unquote free to recruit. They do not cost gold. They're just taking up your unit capacity. Some units will require the Mortuary cult, which we'll get into in a minute here. So skipping this one, I will be getting Soul Reaper, plus replenishment rate's good. The replenishment rate is pretty slow, or is relatively slow for the Tomb Kings, although with all the upgrades, I think it's probably on par with others. Because units are free to recruit and they take up, most are free to recruit, which we'll see. Again, some are from the Mortuary cult. We can disband them or re-recruit them. It's just a matter of recruitment time. We still want replenishment rate because some units might take longer to recruit. Normally, I think it's one turn, but it's good to have, especially if we're fighting battle after battle. So I'll probably get this, and then the other one is Canoptic Jars, which we'll talk about. You can get up to +3. So of these, I will probably get Soul Reaper and maybe the Canoptic Jars. I would like to get a Tenmi. It's basically a local recruitment capacity +1. You'll see we're going to lose a lot of units, a lot of basic units on the battlefield within each battle, which is the normal way to play Tomb Kings from my understanding. I do want to get Lightning Strike. It just helps, makes it more tenable in battle when you have multiple stacks you're fighting against. Here we have minus attrition. I'm not too concerned with that, but we'll see. We have income from looting, sacking, and post-battle. This, all is mine. I'll strongly consider all is mine. We're going to want post-battle loot. Again, we don't generate a lot of gold, but, buildings cost gold, and other aspects such as some techs and other things do cost gold. So that might be nice. Ambush. I don't do too much ambushing, so within this tree, I'll probably get 3 points in all is mine and 1 in imperishable. Excuse me, not imperishable. The other one in lightning strike. I will get renowned and feared. The campaign movement is really great, and I do like the hero self-defense and the enemy hero action reduction. So that's how the build will go. As far as priority, I'm actually going to prioritize the first part of the army chain. So here we have leadership +5, which is nice. Arrow, this is basically ammunition and missile damage for archers and skull catapults, skeletal archers and skull catapults. I am not getting this. My first priority after Route Marcher will be filling out the Sun Scorched Bones. Armor and melee defense for Nekarara warriors and Tomb Guard, skeleton warriors and spearmen units. These are our frontline units. They are extremely weak, especially those skeletal warriors and spearmen units off the bat before we can get the better Tomb Guards and Nekarara warriors. So this is our first priority. After Route Marcher, we're going to build towards this. So those are kind of the first, call it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points. I personally don't utilize cavalry, so this is weapon strength, missile damage, and speed to the various horsemen and mounted units. I won't be getting this. I will be getting charioteers, master charioteers. I am really excited about the chariot units. I will be fielding a lot of them. That is kind of my build and my strategy. They're fast. They have a bigger count. I think, with the micro, if you micro them well, you come back, you can do a lot of damage and be very disruptive. So here it's charge bonus, melee attack, and reload time reduction for War Sphinx, skeletal chariots, and skeletal archer chariot units. You will see that there are 2 types of chariot units off the bat. We can get fairly early skeletal chariots and archer chariot units. One thing I will note, the archer chariot unit appears to have, at least from the pre-work that I did, it looks like they have the same melee stats. So you can just toggle between the archer mode and the melee mode. So, something to think about. Stone Masonry, I will be getting potentially this to later game. Ushabti, we'll be able to summon them once we take a certain amount of damage. They're really great units. They're kind of like the Rat Ogres from Skaven. So this is very compelling, but later game. Stone Sentinels, and so here we have melee defense, melee attack, and missile damage for Ushabti units. And they come in melee form, and then they also have a ranged option. The Great Bow range, I think, has got ridiculous range on one of the units, so we'll take a look at that, like 250, 255 maxed out. I'm not getting Stone Sentinels, basically charge bonus melee attack, weapon strength. Sepulchral Stalkers are good units, good versus large and charges. Necrosphinx and Scorpion units are awesome. Again, debatable here. This I probably will not get. Reanimate, I definitely want to get plus leadership. It's good. we don't have to worry about our units, but we do want to make sure our heroes, uh, have the plus leadership so they don't rout and run. These are what we like to call one-hit wonders. I'm gonna get all four most likely. We need, I guess, only one before we hit resurrect. We are gonna get resurrect, replenish hit points of combatants, enhances it. Really great move. Here we have magic resistance, missile damage, and ammunition for skeletal archers, Yushabi, basically all the ranged units, which is fantastic. I might skip this one again. This is plus armor, melee attack, and physical resistance for all mounted units, although it also upgrades the chariot units, so I will want to get this, which is fantastic. Here we have missile resistance, armor, and speed for our frontline units, so those Nekahara warriors, skeletal warriors, and spearmen and tomb guards. So definitely getting these two. Ancient stone upgrades for leadership, weapon strength, and magic resistance for Yushabdi, Scorpion, and basically all the constructs. So, these all kick in at rank 7 or above. They're all worth it. I would definitely get it. We'll probably in the build, probably get Unfading Memory, then Resurrect. We'll start building out this tree after we get Lightning Strike, because I do like to get it. If you look at the build for casting for Khatep, it's actually pretty good. We have Joff's Incantation of Cursed Blades. Basically, it's a vortex casting. I personally, I do plan on grabbing the Restless Dead at some point. I think maybe after Lightning Strike. It resurrects dead combatants and replenishes hit points. This is really useful. We do take a lot of damage. It's part of the strategy. So to heal up, especially towards the end, just to help with replenishment, or if there's a unit that's just getting pounded, we can bring them back to life. Here we have physical resistance, also pretty good. Armor piercing and missile damage, which is nice. Direct damage to combatants, which is always good. I personally don't know how many points I can put in this. Minus melee attack and melee defense, medium random moving area of effect, and then your classic ones. The reason I'm not going to build out this tree is that we already have bonuses to recruiting liches. We'll see the three different trees we can recruit from in a second here. I most likely will put 2 points in this tree. After that, I think I'm, putting points everywhere else. This one is great, available at 10. If we can, we're gonna grab it at 10. Although we also do want to get Skeletal Chariot pretty early. Here you can see the stats. Yushabti upgrades, fantastic. We want Reanimator. Here, when we look at this, +1 use for Sandstorm. Khatep can summon the Sandstorm. It looks, pretty cool. Does damage. We'll grab that most likely. Here we have upgrades to Chariot units as well as Horsemen. I would like that, enhancing them, so I'm going to get that. Unit capacity upgrades are going to be important, and we get replenishment for Tomb Guards. Tomb Guards are kind of our, top tier center core middle unit once we get them. So definitely getting this. We're basically going to build this entire tree. Plus hero recruitment rank for Lich Priest. They already get a pretty high level. If anything, I might skip this one. If possible. And then definitely want to have +20 for Magic Power Reserve and hero action cost. It's more for the Magic Power Reserve. We want to max that out because we will be casting a lot. We look at the top here. We want to get Casket to Casket of Souls. I'll be interested to see how this functions. You can see that the speed is reduced on the left over here. I can't really keep it and hover over, but it looks like it grabs some bonuses. Casket of Souls is a pretty interesting unit. We'll review that shortly. Arcane Knowledge is nice, but again, these ones up here I'm not sure if I'll get. Um, Although this is nice, unlocks hero recruitment of Lich Priests all provinces. Something to consider. So we'll have to look at that. Here, research rate and construction for all buildings, nice. And then physical resistance and unit experience. If any of these, I might get Mortuary Cult. It's going to be pretty later. I don't really think we'll need that. I'm fine recruiting and running my heroes. Plus, wherever I'm recruiting a new army, I normally fill them up with all of the different heroes I need in there off the bat. So that's a look at the Legendary Lord Khatep series of attributes. The next piece I want to review is Dynasties, or techs, effectively. There are 6, and then we can recruit these once we research any of the, any of the dynasties. So there's 6 dynasties. When you look at this, each one has a negative 30% research rate. So, and they allow you to army capacity. So right now we're effectively constrained, unless we use a mortuary cult, or we use effectively the dynasty or tech tree. We are constrained to 1 army for 15 turns. Once we unlock one of these, we have +1 army. And then we can also do all the research within the dynasty, which is nice. So we want to be very cognizant of what each bonus each dynasty provides us, because realistically, I don't know if we're going to get to all 6 unless the campaign runs really, really long. Because again, that 30% research decrease to research each time adds a lot of time for the next one. So these middle ones are all the same. The ones up here, it's actually interesting. It's a combination of, one of them costs 100 canoptic jars to expand your hero capacity. We actually can immediately recruit heroes as long as we have the capacity for them. Again, a lot of Tomb Kings is about capacity constraint. It's not about gold or buildings, although buildings will play a key role in your capacity count. So these top 3 are effectively all the same. They just swap out which one needs the canoptic jars versus gold to unlock it. So we're not so much concerned there. What we are concerned about is the text down here and the lord that we're able to recruit that each dynasty unlocks, and then we get some sort of economic bonus. The way I'm gonna structure this is to try to keep it apples to apples. I'm gonna go across for each area. So we'll go across looking at economic, or I guess you call it economic attributes, or more campaign attributes. So for the first dynasty, we get campaign movement, reduction to construction costs for infantry and chariot buildings, and income for trade. You'll see that I really am prioritizing chariots, so this is going to be one of the call it first 2 or 3 dynasties I want to research for multiple reasons. We're going to want to cover a lot of ground, or be able to cover a lot of ground too. The second dynasty, we have minus construction costs for cavalry buildings, plus growth, plus post-battle loot income, which is nice. Third dynasty, construction costs for capital settlement buildings, plus public order, plus income from settlements. We don't generate too much income from settlements, so this one's a little lower on the priority list from an economic or campaign standpoint. Fourth dynasty, construction for wall, garrison, citadel, and estate buildings, ambush chance, income from sacking and looting. Again, this is lower priority when we're just comparing the campaign bonuses. Fifth dynasty is construction for growth and public order buildings, unit experience, and increased income from income buildings. Again, slightly lower priority. And here we have plus winds of magic, construction for recruitment buildings, and local recruitment capacity. The fact that we're increasing local unit capacity relatively early is going to be nice, just because we are going to lose a lot of units per battle. Then here, these unlock after the first one. It basically, for canoptic jars, you can pay to gain followers to assign to your armies, and they all have really interesting bonuses. So running through them here, we have Frenzy for your Shabdi, which is nice. For the effectively they go into frenzy mode, do additional damage, hit, speed of swing, which is nice. Ability Death Blow for our frontline warrior skeletal units, which is nice. I'm not exactly sure what Death Blow does. I don't know. I also don't know if this is a banner or if this is for all of them. It looks like it's Lord's Army, so all of them should gain it. So we'll want to check that out. Might be useful. Here we have armor for Tomb Guard units, which again is frontline along with weapon strength. And I don't know how many of these you can recruit. It's possible we just maybe keep recruiting them. So if we want one for each army, we can do that. This is bonus to large for Necrosphinx and War Sphinx. This one is Vanguard deployment for skeletal chariot units. I'm fielding a lot of chariots. This is one up front that I'm really gonna strongly consider. Herald of Xandri. Ability Hawkish Precision for skeletal archers and Ushabi great bows. Interesting. And bonus versus infantry for Tomb Scorpion units. That's also interesting. And then here we have Army capacity +1, global recruitment duration for -1 for all units, global recruitment capacity +3. That's nice. I will be interested to see global recruitment and how long it takes to recruit units. The next piece is I'm going to go through the top. These are basically the lords we can recruit once we unlock the dynasty. They do cost canoptic jars. It's nice because you get +1 army capacity, and then you have a lord that's better than your standard lords to choose from. So this for the first dynasty, this lord has melee attack when fighting in desert terrain, charge bonus, ambush chance improvement, range improvement for army, and the ability to stalk. Overall, pretty good stuff. This one, second dynasty, public order, enhanced leadership effect, leadership aura size, ward save, which is nice, tax rate, which is nice. Again, we're not generating that much income, so all these +5% is going to be muted comparatively to other factions. So just keep that in mind. Third dynasty, we have plus armor for War Sphinx, Necro Sphinx, unit capacity for War Sphinx, construction time for all buildings in the local province reduced. That's nice. Armor, additional trade, tradable resources. When we start dealing with the Mortuary cult, we're going to need access to resources, so trade actually plays an interesting component. We'll see. Fourth dynasty, missile damage, melee attack for Ushabti units in the army, which is nice. Unit capacity for Ushabti and melee attack. So increasing that unit capacity for units, especially Ushabti, which again are similar to the Rat Ogres, is going to be key. So when we were looking down here and we were saying income from sacking, looting, construction, ambush, this doesn't look so good. This lord starting to look a lot better, or this dynasty, because we can add 2 Ushabti units to any army. Here, fifth, our capacity is increased by 2. Excuse me. The fifth one. This one is focused on Lich Priest, enhancing recruitment rank, magic resistance, +1 of magic, untainted 5. Khatep already has bonuses for Lich Priests, and down here we see some of the stuff's nice, but right now off the bat, looking at these two, this is lower priority. We already have bonuses to Lich Priest. There's only so many bonuses we really need, and quite frankly, we're going to be fighting so much, they should level up pretty quick. Finally, in the 6th dynasty, we have weapon strength for skeletal chariot and archer chariot units, missile damage for the archer chariot units, unit capacity for both the skeletal archer chariots and the skeletal chariots, and then +5% speed. This lord off the bat is one that I'm going to want early game, especially because I plan on fielding a lot of chariot units, so I want to increase that capacity. So, between that, we look at the bonuses, plus local recruitment is pretty good, +5, construction time for recruitment buildings okay, cost is okay, again 10% not that much, although it can add up. I have to figure out, I think recruitment buildings, we'll see if that's anything that enhances or expands your capacity or not. So off the bat, just looking at these top 2, the 6th dynasty is looking pretty good. We're going to now look at the 3 texts that you can unlock within each dynasty. So for the first one, we have charge bonus for our Nekahara warriors and chariot units, which is nice. Ammunition for the chariot is great, and reload time reduction for the chariot units great. Plus melee and defense for Nekahara warriors. Again, they're going to be forming that center lineup, more or less. Weapon strength and armor. So these three techs are pretty good. This tree overall, especially with these three techs, is going to be relatively earlier game, right? Call it, the second or third, and you're going to see the one I'm going to pick off the bat. You could probably figure it out already. Second Dynasty, charge bonus for horsemen, ammunition for archers and horsemen, and reload time reduction for archers and horsemen. Melee attack and defense for horsemen. Units. Again, I'm instead of focusing on horseman units, I am playing the chariot game. At least I plan to in this campaign, unless I'm forced to shift. And here we have missile damage and armor for archers and horseman unit. So this is focused on horsemen. Nothing in this tree really stands out to me on the way I'm planning on playing the game. Second Dynasty is probably going to be the last one we would research. Third Dynasty, we have armor piercing, melee defense and charge bonus for carrion units. So the flying units, similar but much lower stats than harpies. Then upgrades for the Tomb Scorpion, upgrades for sepulchral stalkers. This is pretty good. These are pretty good. We're gonna have carrion units, scorpion units. We're gonna have a few sepulchral stalkers. But again, compared to the first Dynasty, this is maybe third, fourth, or fifth in the lineup. I want to probably say third. Fourth Dynasty, we have enhancements for Tomb Guard and embedded hero units, which is nice. Ward save melee attack for Hiroshian units. The Hero Titan. I don't know how to say that word. I'm gonna have to figure out how to pronounce it so I don't look like a complete jackass. Excuse me. Anyways, weapon strength and armor for Tomb Guard and whatever that unit is, however you say it. Fifth Dynasty, we have ammunition and reload time for Skull Catapult and Casket of Souls. So okay, Casket of Souls is pretty good, but we're gonna field one per army maximum. We're never gonna really have two of them in an army, but ideally we would have one per army, which is nice. Melee attack for and defense for Necropolis Knights. Again, I'm not gonna build too many horsemen or knight units. Weapon strength, missile damage and armor for Necropolis Knights, and that missile damage going to the Skull Catapult and Casket of Souls. Finally, the sixth Dynasty, we have melee attack and defense for Ushabti, along with weapon strength and reload time reduction for the Great Bow Ushabti. Melee attack, armor, and defense for Necrosphinx, and missile damage, armor, and melee defense for War Sphinx. I've decided I want to prioritize the 6th Dynasty, mainly because I want Alcazar the Second. He's going to increase our chariot recruitment capacity off the bat, so we can fill him out with a couple chariot units. He has plus speed, which is nice. I am going to focus on the Ushabti melee attack and defense, and I would like to get, and it's a lot of gold, and you're going to see gold, I would imagine from my research I've done, is going to be a challenge. I am going to also try to get the Proclamation of the 6th Dynasty, mainly for that recruitment capacity to all provinces. So this is our number one that we're going to go with, or I'm going to go with, at least for the Vortex campaign. And Wisdom of the First Dynasty is the number 2 dynasty after that. The third one, I do think I'm going to grab... either the third dynasty for my third one I'm going to pursue, and then maybe the fourth. After that, it's going to be very situational. We'll see. It's going to take a long time. It's possible the campaign, if it does take long enough, we might hit all dynasties, although hopefully it doesn't take that long. I'm going to quickly go through the buildings. Buildings actually increase capacity. So when you see this, you see unit capacity for skeletal chariots +2, Unit capacity +2 for skeletal chariots, and then +2 for skeletal archer chariots. Here we have, unit capacity for a screaming skull catapult, additional capacity for archer and skeletal chariot units. The one question that I'm asking myself when I see this is, and I can't tell you this right now because this is again the first time I'm kind of playing this, not kind of the first time I'm playing this, if this is accretive. So is this +2 unit capacity for skeletal chariots? Is it +2 total? And then when you upgrade, I'm just getting +2 for skeletal archers, or is each one accretive? So we're gonna want to figure that out, because that will determine, how often we upgrade and what we upgrade. So something to watch, figure that out. And the real reason I'm asking that question is that I don't plan on fielding a lot of screaming skull catapults. Especially for 4,000, if I'm only going to get that +1 unit spot for just that skull catapult. So I wish I had the answer. We'll figure out soon enough. So this is the Bone Shaper building line. These are our chariot units. Real quick, just to make sure that I'm right. Here we see 50 armor, 55 leadership, 74 speed, 22 melee attack, 24 melee defense, 52 charge bonus, 50, 55, 74, 50. Okay, so it is the same. So there's skeletal archers, just the only difference is they have some ammunition. They're 12 stacks. So because there's no upkeep or recruitment costs for these units, we'll probably just get as many chariot units as we can and just run them down. The next building is Open Graves. Skeletal archers. Level 1 has +4 skeletal archers. Again, I don't know if this is accretive, but then we can get Necrara warriors. Skeletal archers, they have pretty good range, decent ammunition, arguably okay missile damage. It's on the low end, not fantastic. They are pitifully slow, so anything can run them down. But we are still going to get a lot of archer units, especially because we're starting in the Dark Elves area. So that means the Dark Elves are going to be fielding mounted units. They have flying harpies, and they have some of the best archer units in the game. Our archer units, the reason we're getting them is not to try to go toe-to-toe with archer units. The simple fact is that we're going to want to be able to put some damage at some sort of distance on them during combat, right? So I am going to be recruiting a lot of skeletal archers until I can get my chariots up and running. That's kind of my current strategy. We'll see if it works. It might be a horrible strategy because, again, these units aren't that great. I just want some sort of range, and the primary reason is that our units are very, very slow. So to put that in perspective, right, if we look at it, sword infantry, their speed's 28, 28. Extremely slow. Even the Necrara, which is the next level up warriors, 28 speed. They are so slow. We want to be able to start putting damage on the enemy at some distance, so I will be getting skeletal archers. Next level up is Crypt Barracks. That opens up unit capacity for +2 Necrara warriors. If you look at these, they are much better armored. I think slightly better leadership, better melee defense, weapon strength, attack, and slightly better charge bonus compared to our, where is it? Yeah, skeletal warriors. So again, 9,760. Let's see here. And it's easier. I'm just gonna. Okay, so they actually have lower health, but same unit stack of 120, better armor, better stats all around. So we're gonna get as many of these as possible because this is our frontline unit, and they are much better than the regular skeletal warriors or spearmen. Next level up is Royal Barracks. We start being able to recruit tomb guards. So +2 tomb guards, +1 tomb guard halbergs. We see the halbergs, better health, about 100 more health, same unit stack, anti-large, armored, They obviously have, if you look at it, armor piercing and bonus first large. They're halberd units. Tomb Guard, this is, much better stats. You still look at these stats, they're not great. Like, we can never pit a Tomb Guard unit against a tier, honestly, even tier 3 melee unit from the other races 1v1. They're going to get decimated. And then we look at, you know, the tier 5 units that are infantry for the other factions. They're going to eat through even our Tomb Guards. And that's okay because the Tomb Guards are there to keep units in place, keep people slowed down, where we can drop magic and come around back, with our chariot units or use our constructs. So quickly go through this. I don't plan on getting too many of these. We have skeletal horsemen and skeletal horsemen archers. We look at this again. Um, you know, much better speed compared to a lot of other Tomb King units. But the horsemen archers, I never field horsemen archers. They don't do that much damage. Yeah, there's mobility. They can be annoying, which is nice, and have vanguard deployment. But at the end of the day, they're not going to deal damage, and they're just effective at cutting units around. So maximum maybe field 1-2 of these, but I don't really think I'm going to be using horsemen in the game. They also can't go. If you look at these stats, they're not going to go toe to toe with any other mounted unit from any other faction. And the charge bonus is pitifully low, in my opinion. These guys have 26 charge bonus to the 52 for the chariots. They are a 60 stack, so something to consider. Next level up, we get Nekara horsemen and sepulchral stalkers. I will be fielding sepulchral stalkers. They're anti-large. They have a volley. They can actually stop or slow enemy cavalry charges. So when we're building this unit line, I'm really building for that unit. So even getting up to tier 3 is 5,000, which is really expensive. We get one of sepulchral stalkers. We don't need too many of these. Honestly, 1, maybe 2 of these will do. I will be interesting to see if I can micro effectively enough to really halt enemy charges or use their ranged ammunition to take it out. So they have magical attacks. They only have 3 ammunition, but if you look at it, they're kind of a frontline melee unit. So if we compare these stats, 50 armor, a melee attack, a melee defense of 32 and 41, and 8 charge bonus, you'd compare that to the sepulchral stalker, better armor, melee attack 24, 36, 28, 32. So they're on par with our Tomb Guards, more or less. They're only a 16 stack compared to 120 stack. But if we position them right, they are armor piercing. If you look at the weapon strength, they're going to get bonus armor piercing damage as well as bonus first large. So we are going to get one of those. Horsemen, they're better. Nekara horsemen, they are a little better. Still not fantastic. They are, we're quote unquote free because of unit capacity. If we need to fill something up, we might get a horseman or 2 just so we can micro more from that aspect. We go 1 up, we get Necropolis Knights. More importantly, it looks like we're expanding sepulchral stalker unit count. And then the final one is Necropolis Knights Halbergs. These units are decent. Of the mounted units, if I'm going to use one, I would rather use this. They have poison attacks. Oh wait, Necropolis Knights also have poison attacks. Having poison attacks is nice. This is 10,000 gold. I don't think I'm going to be upgrading it all the way there. Moving over one, we are going to want to get Khemri, Statuary of Khemri, and the upgraded Statuary of Pact. This recruits Ushabti and Ushabti Great Bows. If we look at the Great Bows, this is the longest range and decent ammunition, as well as good missile damage of any unit in the game. I'm pretty sure this is the best ranged unit. It is only 12 count though. Right, so we're gonna, and it's armor piercing missiles, so we're gonna want to, with the Ushabti Great Bow, we're gonna want to make sure we pick our targets carefully. They're going to be targeting higher level units, heroes or lords. Potentially, they have decent but not fantastic melee stats. They are very heavily armored, so even if they run out of ammunition, we can still utilize them and micro them around the battlefield to decent effect. Ushabti, these are kind of like the rat ogres, except they don't have the charge. That's one of the reasons we're going to want to prioritize that dynasty that we mentioned first, which is the sixth one. And that is because we are going to increase the melee attack and melee defense for all Ushabti units along with weapon strength. So that's one of the plays here. And if we also look at the skill tree here, one of the things we're going to want to strongly considers melee attack and defense for Ushabti. They don't have great charge bonuses. It's like 18 and 18. But they're going to do, these are our damage dealers. These are the ones that are going to eat away if we can get up, around, and behind. One of the unique combat mechanics, similar to Murder or Prowess, is that if we lose enough units, we actually gain healing effects to our units, and at the end, once we hit a certain capacity, we can actually recruit Ushabti on the field. So we'll see that in a battle upcoming here during the next turn. This is really just an overview. So unit capacity 1, unit capacity 2 for the melee units, and 1 for the great bow units. So good to know. I am going to get a Scorpion Nest, which unlocks 2 Scorpions. Tomb Scorpions are awesome. Armor piercing, anti-infantry. They cause terror. Good weapon damage. They're only a single count. Charge bonus, not too great, but they are anti-infantry. We're going to use this to effectively micro round, come from the side of the back, do devastating damage, and cause a lot of terror. Really screw up their core front if we can, or the speed isn't that great, but it is, 50 compared to like Horseman's a 70. We're going to be able to do some pretty good damage with a Tomb Scorpion. War Sphinx, pretty good unit. So this is 1, so each of these are just 1 of each, so we're going to have to decide. It's really expensive. War Sphinx, good, like it, missile damage. Pretty decent speed, can get around, has decent range, good unit. We actually, what do we start? We start with that one. Necro Sphinx, again, 1 unit, all these have untainted, armor piercing, anti-large. So this one is anti-infantry, this one is anti-large. This causes terror. I personally prefer kind of the melee units to get in the middle of it. We're going to want a Necrotech, which is going to enhance our constructs. These are all constructs bonuses, which is important. So between the two, I'll probably prioritize Necrosphinx. We will see. And then we start with this one, which I can't pronounce. Armor piercing, armored, causes terror. Will be, and we actually have casting ability. He has the Spirit Leech, which is nice, as well as the Shem's Burning's Glaze. So we already have one in our army. We're going to use it to focus enemy lords. We're also going to use it to come around back and just devastate enemy infantry lines. Buildings, you have your defensive buildings, engraved walls. Not, we might end up getting this. We're going to see if we need it or not. It's going to depend on how many people come at us and when. In our main settlement, probably we're going to skip that and prioritize building out our unit capacity early. Here we have public order bonuses. We might strongly consider public order. Here we have growth. We might get level 1 growth. It's 1,000, which is a lot. So I think I'm going to forgo that for now, just so we can get to the higher tiered units and grow faster. Charnel Plaza, we can generate some income up to 150 plus campaign movement range. This is like the only income generating building I think that we're going to get, pending any trade resources, and if any of those generate any income, which a lot of them don't. We are going to get the Charnel Plaza piece because we want long campaign movement ranges, and we're going to want some income. Realistically, we might, you know, for 1200, we'll have to see, because if it'll pay off or not. The main way we generate income or gold in this game is going to be through fighting, and just gold from fights. So we have the Citadel here, which is basically siege defense lord unit capacities. We might consider getting this. I think we're going to get recruitment capacities from our 6th Dynasty off the bat. So, I don't know if we need to recruit more than 5 units per turn. If we're at that point, then that means things are probably not going that well. So, something to consider. And then finally, the Burial Chamber plus Public Order, Canoptic Charge generated, and increased hero rank and lord rank, as well as Untainted to other provinces. So this is our Scarpo's lair is our primary area. I will most likely focus on the unit counts at the beginning. Only other thing, so what haven't I covered? Mortuary cult. Here, basically, we can craft legions of legend, and so, depending if you have certain resources. So through battle and exploration and other ways, we can generate canoptic jars, which we can then spend in the mortuary cult. So we can use it with a combination of gold to increase our army capacities. We can recruit regiments renowned, which are down here. Some of them require resources, which we have to figure out how to get, and which will be important. We can also craft weapons, armor, basically all these items depending on canoptic jars and resources. This is extremely advantageous because if you guys have played legendary campaigns, you can be fighting battle after battle and you just don't get any magical item drops. We can basically, if things are going well and we have some extra resources and canoptic jars to burn, we can create items, deck our heroes out with some cool stuff. We definitely want to see some of these more heroic or legendary items we're going to want to put on our legendary lord and others. Our legendary lord, if you look at his tree, he has the staff, and that's it that we can get. So that's something that we're going to be referring to. I'm probably going to focus on upgrading units. These units have better stats, than some of the other ones, and they're regiment renowned. So the way recruitment works, I'll show you an example here, is they don't cost anything. It's all about capacity. I'm going to get 3 archers off the bat, and we're actually going to, I'm going to end the video here in a second. We could go out and fight right now, but I'm going to do some recruitment. Our early game units are so weak that we really need to make sure that we have a lot of them so we can just effectively overwhelm the enemy. Once we start getting higher tiered units, especially once we start getting chariots, we can start picking fights. Right now, I'm not in a position to pick a fight because the fact that they have harpies and ranged units is going to be, they're going to be able to eat us up pretty quickly because our front line is just so weak. These guys have 10 armor, and they do 14 damage. Basically no damage. So, yeah. I hope you guys learned a lot. The one thing I have not covered, and I guess I'll cover real quickly, I mentioned we need to get 5 out of 9 books of Nagash. They're around the map. I would note here that each one, the bonuses and location is varied each time you generate a new campaign, right? So this book up here could have a different reward if you start a different campaign. Basically, these books are being carried around by large armies throughout the map that we're going to have to defeat to obtain the book. And so we can zoom over here. There's an army marching around over here. We're going to need 5 of them. Realistically, we're going to probably aim for the 5 books closest to us to obtain. So that's that. We'll talk about it more once we actually get into the campaign. I hope you enjoyed the video. and hope to see you in the next one. See you guys.